welcome back to a whole new episode of Florida Gridiron Report right here on the Varsity Sports Network. I'm Dan LaForest, and I've got a brand new co-host, the great Larry Bluestein. Larry, welcome back to FGR, now full-time.
Oh, thank you so much, Dan. I was been very excited the last couple of weeks to get an opportunity coming off the media days, which was just a booming success statewide. A lot of people took part in it. A lot of people found out who VSN was, and that was the exciting part in the last couple of days and leading up to our first show. I've heard a lot. Now, everybody kept saying, I can't wait till you guys get on, and here we are. And we have a great show tonight, and we're going to have a great show every week. We're going to have the newsmakers, our correspondents around the state, our top 25, top games to look forward to, kind of recapping one week and then looking ahead to the next. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I am too. It's a whole new season, 2022. A lot of noise, a lot of discussion on the offseason. Metro Suburban has been the topic for the ages for the last several months. Now we're going to see it in action. There's so much great, but I think the most exciting thing for me is looking at the scheduling. We have some matchups this year that it's going to be tough to really identify which the best games are, because it's unbelievable how many great games we see on the schedules.
Well, yeah, you got a great point. But not only that, we have some marquee games we're going to have an opportunity to showcase our teams with some out-of-state teams. The first week alone, a couple of teams go out of state, plus the Broward County event that's going to host 7 different teams from as far away as California and Washington, D.C. And we're excited. And like you said, every single week there's going to be a marquee game. Look at Miami Central right off the bat, going to IMG. We all know how powerful IMG is, but there's a lot of people thinking, you know what, Miami Central could, as you say, leave quite a mark in the opening game, because they've got the talent, they've got the coaching. New coach Jude Joseph, I think he's ready for it. St. Thomas Aquinas can come right out of the gate against St. Joe's. Venice is always going to have a tough schedule. Sanford Seminole coach, they got a really, really good schedule. Everybody, you look at any team, Edgewater, everybody else, Cocoa, Ryan Schneider came within a couple of points. So, yeah, it's going to be a great one. And like you said, every single week, we're going to have marquee games.
Well, I tell you what, we're going to get right into some of that when we get back from a quick commercial break. You're watching the Florida Gridiron Report right here on the Varsity Sports Network, and we'll be back right after these messages.
Did you know only 2% of college graduates feel that they've had a magical college experience? At St. Thomas University, we see the magic happening every day. When your professor becomes your mentor and learning becomes your passion. When you join a student organization and meet your friends for life. When your classes and activities prepare you for the real world and a successful career. At STU, our students live the magic, and their college experience leads to limitless possibilities. Visit stu.edu today.
Marijuana can impair your ability to drive, and that affects much more than just you. Drive baked, get busted.
Are you in the market for the finest athletic apparel available? Check out theimperialpoint.com. Fully sublimated designs, top quality, made in the USA apparel for any team and any fan. Check them out today at theimperialpoint.com or give them a call at 800-801-4884. Imperial Point Apparel, made in the USA.
All right, welcome back to the Florida Gridiron Report right here on the Varsity Sports Network. I'm Dan LaForest. That's Larry Bluestein. Larry, destination Tallahassee, destination Fort Lauderdale. That's where everybody's playing for. You're going to see the state championships for the rural 1S, 1M, also the 2S, 2M classification state championships at Gene Cox Stadium, as well as the 4 and 3 Metro and Suburbans in Fort Lauderdale. Let's talk about the path to that and the significance of playing in that championship game.
Well, so you have 9 state championship games this year, as opposed to the 7 that we've had in the past, or eight that we've had in the past. So you added another one this year. And the great thing about this, Dan, is you're really going to have representation from basically every corner, like they did last year. Jacksonville Trinity Christian, a 9-time state champion. Verlin Dormany, I think, what is he, the second longest tenured coach behind Bill Castle, right ahead of Earl Garcia, and also Jeff Bertani of North Miami Beach. You have an opportunity. Remember last year, Pine Forest out of Pensacola made all this. They won a thriller against Orlando Jones in the state semifinal, and then went down. And I thought they played even with Tampa Jesuit all the way. Lost a tough game. I think that's the great thing about this year. I mean, every corner of this state that you go to, you look in Tallahassee with Tallahassee Lincoln. And then obviously new coaching at Bluntstown, new coaching at Madison County, which is going to add, I think it's going to add a lot to it. And then, we have the Central Florida area where, I mean, you look at as many teams in the Central Florida area from Seminole to Apopka to Orlando Jones to Orlando Edgewater, teams that really have an opportunity. Rick Darlington is back in the game. He's at DeLand now. And then you slide over where Mainland is starting to do really well. Then you slide down to Cocoa. Ryan Schneider came within a couple of points. I think that's the best thing about this year. Treasure Coast from Fort Pierce is still back up. And Naples is finally out of the shadow of a Dade County team, and they may come up with a run. I mean, they've won 97% of their games in the regular season over the last 4 years. Including 11 last year, 10 the year before. So finally, we're going to give a spotlight to every corner of this state. And I think that's the most exciting part of it. We know that South Florida is loaded. We had an opportunity in our media days to see all these teams. I think Palm Beach Central, one of the most overlooked teams, 11-win season last year, lost in the second round of the playoffs. So that's the great part. Gainesville Buchholz, the kid Whittemore, who's playing quarterback for him, but committed to Florida as an athlete, a wide receiver. His dad does an excellent job. And that, to me, is the best thing about this coming season, is that we will shine the spotlight everywhere. And that's something that nobody else can do.
No, you're absolutely right. And, we talked about this before. Great scheduling this year. We see a lot of traditionally strong football programs scheduling strong football programs. I think this is going to be the year where we literally take a look at the schedule and go, God, I can't wait to see who wins this game. You've got, you mentioned some of those games. You've got Cocoa and Jones goes to Cocoa week 1. Cocoa again, they travel to St. Thomas Aquinas week 2. Miami Central has loaded up. Chaminade Madonna playing a strong schedule. We talked about Seminole, Sanford Seminole. They traveled down to Venice to play the defending state champions. So there is so much to look forward to. But the one thing that I really noticed about the reclassification was the districting. You're getting back to the hometown districts where they're community districts. You're not seeing districts that are spread out by miles apart. And I think that's a big deal too, because the great thing about high school football has always been that community aspect where you've got a rival that's right down the road. And I think we're going to see a little bit more of that as well this year.
I agree. I mean, that's what's missing in this state. A lot of times you take a look and You don't have, I mean, now you get an opportunity, and you look right down that corridor, with Lake Mary and Seminole. Now DeLand's in that situation, and where they're going to be pretty good. Oviedo has a really, really good program. And then you look in some of the areas in Tallahassee, and you have Lincoln, and you have teams like Leon who've been, powers in the past that are trying to get back. Rickards, who went to the state title game a few years ago, and then Jacksonville. Other than Trinity and Bowles, the Jacksonville area really never gets the publicity that it deserves. And they have a lot of really, really good teams, the Sandalwoods and the First Coast and the Mandarins, programs like that have done real well. And I think that the real hidden gem in this state is that Panhandle. I mean, we're a time zone difference, which is not very many states are like that. But we have, teams in Pensacola. You have teams in, look at the job last year that Mosley did in Lynn Haven. They won 11 games and did a tremendous job. Things are happening now in the Fort Walton Beach with Choctawhatchee. They're getting better. So I think you're right. It's going to be those communities, the Tampa Bay area especially. I mean, there's, the return of Armwood. Armwood had a really strong off season. So I think they're going to be good. Jesuits kind of moved to the top, and they've worked hard to get there. Matt Thompson's done a great job, and people don't realize it didn't come overnight. There was a lot of trial and error, a lot of games that were heartbreaks for them. And I think, like I said, Southwest Florida finally going to get, I think Naples is really a lot of people don't understand, but they've done a great job. I mean, this is a great program. They just have a stumbling block against South Florida teams, and then you get into South Florida and that there's a lot of people down there that are angry bees because, everybody's got to sting each other. And, so I can't wait. This is going to be a weekly thing where you and I are going to talk about great games that were played and even better games that are coming up.
And that's one thing that we're going to do here on the Florida Gridiron Report is we're going to cover every inch of the state. We are not going to just cover the hot areas. And it's going to be from Pensacola all the way down to Key West. We are going to talk about high school football across this state where that typically hasn't been done in the past. And I know we have correspondents that are going to be joining us every week from a different region so that we can highlight every aspect of the great state of Florida.
Yep. Well, you mentioned it. I mean, we have everybody from Frank and Andy, and then Josh is going to be joining us. We have Irish Bill, who's the Navarre guy who knows a lot about the Panhandle. There's a whole lot of people. J.C. Carnahan from the Orlando Sentinel, somebody that we've worked with quite a bit in the past. So it doesn't matter. You and I, we could sit here and we'll moderate a lot of the stuff, but we're going to have people who are right in the ground zero in their areas. And, especially with Andy. He's expanded and gone through the Tampa Bay area and into where he lives in Tarpon Springs and getting a chance to go to the Nature Coast. See, that's another area that's, I think that over the last couple of years, you look at Mitchell out of Newport Richey, they're the ones that kind of put that area on the, on the map. So we finally get an opportunity to see these teams in Bradenton, other than IMG. And that's the one good thing. And then the area that's a Treasure Coast, the area that's a Space Coast, which is usually not covered as much. And you and I and the gang saw when we did those stops on the Varsity Sports Network media tour, that there's some really good programs out there and then teams that are ready to bust out and some great players. And that was the best thing about it. The kids loved it because they got an opportunity to get some recognition.
Larry, one final thought. Craig Damon takes over as the new executive director of the FHSAA. First time we've had a former football coach take over as leadership.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, North Marion head coach for a lot of years, put out quite a few players, and he gets it. That's the whole thing. He's going to be that type of director that's going to think like a football coach. So when he makes decisions or like a coach, because it's not just football that he's going to be around. He's got the whole, the sports, girls and boys sports. So he's going to think like a coach, but at the same time, act like an administrator. And I think that's a combination, like you said, we haven't had. And yeah, he's he's really a real good guy. He's a PR guy, and that's the one thing. He's not afraid to come on, and he will come on our program quite a bit during the year to express feelings, or if you and I have questions that a lot of coaches that have asked us. I mean, he's not going to shy away from answering them. So that's the best thing, because we're going to have an opportunity to, get to the, not saying, well, let me go ask them. Well, we're going to ask them right in front of you guys. So that's the best.
No, absolutely. And he has, I had that interview with him on the last episode.
Great interview. Great interview.
With the Florida Gridiron Report. And he is going to be accessible. Well, guys, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to have our first correspondent of the year, Andy Villamarzo with Sportsbook Live. You're watching the Florida Gridiron Report right here on the Varsity Sports Network, and we'll be back right after this.
Searching for meaning in a relentless world, always connected, but somehow alone, trapped by illusion. We offer another path, where the battle to belong begins. Awakened by a calling, united by the cause you fight for. No one can take away what it means to be among the few, the proud, the Marines.
Kaiser University, home to 11 national champions, 45 conference championships, and the 2021 Learfield Directors Cup. See, at Kaiser University, you not only compete at the highest of levels, but you win on the biggest of stages. There's no better time to join Seahawk Nation than today. Go Seahawks!
Are you in the market for the finest athletic apparel available? Check out theimperialpoint.com. Fully sublimated designs, top quality, made in the USA apparel for any team and any fan. Check them out today at theimperialpoint.com or give them a call at 800-801-4884. Imperial Point Apparel, made in the USA.
All right, welcome back to the Florida Gridiron Report right here on the Varsity Sports Network. I'm Dan LaForest. That's Larry Bluestein. And now joining us from Sportsbook Live, Andy Villamarzo. Andy, welcome back to the FGR, man.
Hey, I thought you liked the shirt, man.
I do like that shirt, man.
Awesome.
Media Days. So here's the deal, man. Media Days was an amazing event. And, Larry and I talked about it earlier in the show. What was the perception of the coaches and players around that North Suncoast and Tampa region?
Oh, they loved it. I mean, and everybody, those interviews that I've been able to post the videos of with the teams that I've already done previews on, everybody's loving them. And those are things that you get to know the coaches and kind of get a vibe for them, get to hear them instead of just, reading quotes. I mean, you get to actually get a tone to that. So it was a really cool vibe for everybody. I mean, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they did a great job. And with you guys, I mean, class act. It was a fun time, Dan.
I'll tell you what, that was a partnership that just went off without a hitch. And I hope that we can gain similar partnerships with the other NFL teams here in the state, because it was absolutely flawless. And I think everybody walked away happy, most importantly, the coaches and the players, because it was our pleasure to do this. But a lot of people are still trying to figure out when we're going to get replays up, and we're diligently trying to get that out. But, it was a lot of manpower to get 16 media days done. But Andy, let's talk about that Tampa and North Suncoast region going into the 2022 season.
Well, we start off with the preseason here on Thursday and Friday nights. I know some people probably forget that there are some Thursday games. We've got golf at Weeki Wachee, and then the Villages are going to go play Wesley Chapel. So those are a couple that are in that North Suncoast region. And then when you start to look at the broader scope of the Tampa Bay area, you start to see a lot of good matchups kind of littered across the board. You got Armwood going to go to Lakeland. Obviously, Lakeland's loaded up there in the secondary. It's going to be a tough test for Evan Davis and the Hawks. Tampa Bay Tech, they're going to go play Sarasota Riverview. I see that as another good matchup. You got, Hillsborough County against Sarasota County, so that's going to be a good one. Got Jesuit going to Largo. I feel like our Largo is going to be a bit outmanned in that game with Jesuit's offense, with Luke Knight coming back at quarterback, Temple commit Jacques Smith there at running back. They got a slew of other weapons as well, so that's one that I'd like to see how the Tigers come out, because the last time they played was against Palmetto in the spring in that game that got cut short. Speaking of Palmetto, they're going to play Lakewood of St. Petersburg. That to me is going to be a lot of passing yardage between Xander Smith, the sophomore at Palmetto, and then you got Anthony Calandria, quarterback at Lakewood. Larry, talk about a passing escapade.
Anthony Calandria, the guy, he accounted for like 490 yards and a half against Plantation in the spring, and what a beast. And you know what? He was committed to Middle Tennessee State. All of a sudden, Virginia came, and now he's committed to Virginia. The kid is really, if he's 2 inches taller, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the South. I like him. That'll be a great matchup.
Andy, I know that you've been taking a look at, going back to the coaches, what were some of the coaches' changes that you've really had an eye on here since really the spring and maybe into the summer that at some of the programs in your area?
One of the programs would be River Ridge. You remember Coach Miller there coming from Lake Brantley. He was the defensive coordinator. He's really River Ridge. It's kind of a tricky situation in terms of they're not per se rebuilding at all, because River Ridge was already a competitive program. But what Coach Miller wants to do is kind of elevate that, and I think he's doing that over there with the Royal Knights. He's got some good talent over there. I'm really keeping an eye on him because he's just brewing with confidence. He feels like the Royal Knights can contend for a district championship and do more. Alan Super II at Sun Lake, he inherits, or doesn't per se inherits, he got a transfer, Kyle Horvath from Land O'Lakes. He threw for over 2,000 yards, 28 touchdowns for Land O'Lakes last year. That was a 9-1 Gators team. Comes to Sun Lake. And Super II has, plenty of college experience. He was an associate head coach at Bethlehem and Cookman. So if anyone can turn that Seahawks program around, it's going to be him. So he's another one I'm really keeping an eye on.
A great player back in his day too. He was outstanding, and like you said, he went to Bethune-Cookman. Just an outstanding guy and a great mind, very intelligent man. And I saw your interview with him, and I read the piece that you did. And yeah, he's somebody that really, if there's going to be change there, he could do it.
Yeah, he's full of energy. I went to the practice. It's like a college type practice. He runs it just like how he probably played within. So sure. He's somebody that, I expect him to get that Seahawks team to 5-6 wins. I know that's kind of like, only 5 or 6, but Seahawks only won 2 games last year. So that's doubling or tripling their win total. Michael Clayton, we can't forget about the former Tampa Bay Buccaneer, former NFL and, LSU standout. He starts up at Plant City. I think we're all kind of excited and interested. And I brought up to him, I feel like it's a wide receiver trend from the NFL, then becoming a head coach, because you got Jacques Green, he's over at Manatee. You got Mike Williams, he's over at Wharton. And now you got Michael Clayton, he's over there at Plant City. It's almost like if you're an NFL wide receiver, and Lewis Murphy, can't forget him, he's over at Gibson.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you got 4 NFL wide receivers in a 2
from the Bucks.
Yeah.
Not to mention you've got the A train, Mike Allstott across the bay.
I'm gonna forget. I'm just.
He can catch the ball out of the backfield. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's catching out of the backfield. We remember him rumbling, stumbling, getting 5, 6, or maybe getting 15, 20.
You get that cat to the second level, it was over with. Hey,
Andy, you don't want to be a safety coming. I hate to be a safety with him coming at you.
Oh yeah.
Andy, you've been pretty aggressive riding across the state now. What are some of the handful of the games that you've kind of identified across the state that are going to be kickoff classics that you really have your eye on?
One of the top of the list, and I know they were a team that went 6-4, but take a look at the schedule. If you're somebody that isn't familiar with it, American Plantation American Heritage, they're going to go up to Lowndes. That's just above the Florida-Georgia line there, but Lowndes is a perennial South Georgia powerhouse. Interested to see under new head coach Mike Smith how they transition into his era against a tough, Georgia team. It was a shootout last year when Lowndes did play a Florida team. He played Lake Gibson, 58-47. So if that tells us anything, might be seeing a lot of points in the preseason. But coaches attack this every which way. Might only play 2 or 3 quarters with their starters. I know we talked a little bit about, I know Northwestern Jones is the game we're all excited about. It's going to be on VSN there Saturday night. I know you were saying don't have an exact time yet on that, but that one's going to be a real good one.
That's going to be a very heavily watched game. I believe across Florida, but also across the United States, because of the fact that it's a Camping World Stadium. But we've got the coaches from Jones and Northwestern coming on the Gridiron Report here after your segment. So we'll talk a little bit about them after them.
Tallahassee Lincoln at Niceville. Coach Thompson, he's continuing that trend there with Niceville. Just a couple years ago, they're just removed from being a state semifinalist in Class 7A. Last year, they exited just before the region final. They got a lot of their guys returning on offense and defense. I expect that to be a good barometer for Niceville to kind of see where they're at heading into the first game there. I know we mentioned Rockledge at Treasure Coast. That is going to be a good East Coast battle there. Both state semifinalists from a year ago in Class 6A and Class 8A respectively. So that's going to be a matchup that definitely got to keep our eye on. We got Osceola, Apopka. I mean, we're going through just some games here. Central Florida is loaded, by the way, with good matchups, Dan. So Osceola, Apopka. Obviously, Apopka, they fell in the state final last year to Venice, 21-0. What are the Blue Darters going to show against a very talented Osceola group? I'm definitely just intrigued overall with that game. Going down the list here. Taking a look, Dan.
Yeah, we were talking about Seminole and Edgewater too. That's going to be a VSN Orlando game. Our schedule is going to be coming out there. But Larry, any final questions for Andy before we close out the segment?
Well, you got IMG in Venice. I've been to those games. I think it's just one of those little courtesy neighborhood games, because when IMG gets it cranked up, Andy, it's awfully tough. They got the best of the best. Can't say enough about John Peacock, outstanding coach at Venice. He's done a tremendous job. He's going through a little bit of transition, as you mentioned before, at quarterback, but his line comes back intact. He's got a couple of good wide receivers. They're well coached. They're as well coached as you're going to get. And the game that I wanted to talk a little bit about what you brought up is the Rockledge game against Treasure Coast. 2 well-coached teams. Irvin Jones has done a great job with Treasure Coast. And obviously Coach Younger is, he's there year after year. I mean, there's no getting around it. Last year, he stumbled twice, and that was it. And that should be good, because I think he'll get an opportunity to look at some of his younger players. And then the game that you mentioned off the bat, American Heritage Plantation with Coach Mike Smith. Brandon Ennis finally gets to play wide receiver. He's had to play quarterback last year. There's some really good games. I mean, and we have many more that you could have mentioned. I think an intriguing little thing going on in Fort Lauderdale would be Cardinal Gibbons, two-time defending state champions, Chaminade, 4 out of the last 5, and a Palmetto team that certainly is one of the best in 4M.
Yep, absolutely. And that Seminole Edgewater game, Luke Rucker, and you got Cedric Baxter. Those are 2 guys that are going to be featured in that game. IMG and Venice, both of them. You got their IMG is going to welcome Central next week, and then Venice, they got to get ready for Northwestern. So, I mean, and Venice has that loaded schedule that's just unreal. So it's going to be that, like you said, I think that's kind of a courtesy game. Like, hey, let's go ahead and have it before we get into the season here.
It's going to be an exciting year, that's for sure. Guys, that's Andy Villamarzo with Sportsbook Live. When we come back, Larry and Blue have our final thought. Actually, we come back. We will be joined by the coaches of Miami Northwestern and Orlando Jones. You're watching the Florida Gridiron Report right here on the Varsity Sports Network, and we'll be back right after these messages.
Searching for meaning in a relentless world. Always connected, but somehow alone. Trapped by illusion. We offer another path, where the battle to belong begins. Awakened by a calling, united by the cause you fight for. No one can take away what it means to be among the few, the proud, the Marines.
All right, welcome back to the Florida Gridiron Report right here on the Varsity Sports Network. Dan LaForest, Larry Bluestein, and now being joined by the head coach of Miami Northwestern, Coach Max Edwards, and the offensive coordinator for the Orlando Jones Tigers, Dale Williams. Guys, welcome to the Florida Gridiron Report.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Well, you guys got a big game, big kickoff classic right here in Orlando this Saturday night at Camping World Stadium. And that's going to be live on Varsity Sports Network, Orlando, and Dade channels. Coach Edwards, tell us about the significance of playing an Orlando team for your kickoff classic.
Well, playing Jones is a big game due to the fact that Jones and Northwestern are historically Black institutions in their particular cities, and that's a big thing. The state game that we played was awesome. We had a tremendous crowd, and we get this opportunity to play in Orlando where the crowd can be even bigger. It's big for both communities and both schools, and we're looking forward to playing good competition because Jones is a good program and they have excellent kids.
Yes, Coach, obviously coming into this game, there's one guy in particular that played 4 years ago in the state championship, and that's your quarterback, Tiger, Taron Dickens. Talk about that. I mean, because he was last time that Jones and Northwestern played in Daytona Beach. You had a freshman quarterback, and something that a lot of people never realized that would happen. But freshman quarterback winning the state title. He's come a long way since then. Talk about him and talk about that game a little bit that last time, because I know we had a great crowd, but talk about the game. Two pretty evenly matched teams.
It was very evenly matched. Jones was, I done coached in a lot of state championship games, and Jones was well prepared. The kids played hard. It was when the halftime tied up, and to have a ninth grade quarterback to do what Tiger did was awesome. He followed directions, and he actually grew up in that game. He grew up in that game because the competition made him grow up in that game, and he had to make good calls in order for us to win. So playing Jones was awesome during that time. It was a great competition. They had a great team, and they probably got even a better team now. So it's gonna be even a good game.
You know, Coach Dale Williams stepping in, the assistant head coach for Orlando Jones. Coach Elijah Williams could not join us tonight. Coach, you guys aren't a stranger of playing in Camping World. You play there one game a year. It used to be where you played your home games, but still, it's always a big game for the Jones community and the players to get up for, isn't it?
Yeah, man, it's always a great opportunity. Our kids love it. I remember the years when that used to be the home stadium for Jones and us around Orlando. I didn't go to Jones in high school, but I remember just being idolizing Jones. Like, man, they get to play in this big stadium and some of the biggest games in Orlando, and it's right in Central Florida where it's 10 minutes away from everybody. So it's going to be a really big game. The kids are going to love it. And everybody in the city going to be there, especially with it being on a Saturday. So, yeah.
Coach Williams, if I could ask you, I mean, this is an opportunity once again. You guys played each other at UCF this year in a 7-on-7 tournament. You guys actually were in the same bracket. I don't know who made that bracket. That was a crazy bracket with Mainland was in it, quite a few schools. As you look at Northwestern and the type of team that they already missed out on the state championship game last year, what kind of team do you see in Northwestern?
They have the pedigree, they have the resume. They're always a tough team. I admire their game planning, the effort that their guys give. They're always going to give you the best every time they're on the field, and their effort is just off the charts, man. I just, even studying them, being an offensive coordinator, looking at defense, I just admire the hustle and the attention and to detail that their kids always have, man. It's a really great team, and really look forward to this matchup. It's really going to show us what we have in our guys playing such a great and decorated team as the Bulls.
You know, Coach Williams, we covered your spring game against Rockledge a few months ago. And, you know, what I saw out there was a lot of young talent that stepped up. You had your playmakers, the guys that we knew about, but I was very impressed with your young quarterback. Tell us about his development, especially over the summer.
Well, he's been a program kid. He's been there all 4 years. It's his senior year, and this is his first year that he'll be getting a chance to start at the helm. So he has great intangibles and great things, and this is a big one for him to jump in and get his feet wet. And we think that he's going to do really well for us, playing quarterback for us. And so we just excited to see what he's going to give us when he got being a program kid. He's been there 4 years, so he knows the offense like the back of his hands, and he has a great staff around him and a great bunch of guys that going to get behind him, and we're just going to roll with it and see what we have. That's why I like kickoff classics.
Max, I got to ask you, I mean, this is probably one of the best running games you've had in a long time. Obviously, Jamari Ford he's Darren Sproles. He's short, but I'll tell you what, one of the tough kids. And then you have a kid like King Davis, who's only a sophomore. And a lot of people are saying he may be one of the best in the country for his class. Talk about that, because that, to me, that adds a lot of dimensions, because you have Tiger throwing the ball, but you also could run the ball as well.
Well, last year we didn't have a good run game. You know, King wasn't with us. Jamari wasn't the best that he could be. So as the year went on, these guys got older, and they see the holes a little better. They kind of understand the blocking a little better. But they're the same kids. I'm expecting a little more out of them because they have aged a little better. But as far as Larry telling them people we got a good run game, that is not fair, because we do not have a good run game. And I'm just
I smell a possum here.
I'll tell you.
These kids doing
you learned a lot from Ice Harris and Roland Smith about sandbagging. I can tell you that, man. You're so funny. While I have you talking about the offense, Dan and I were talking about Andy Jean. And here's a guy that a lot of people, I think, take for granted. I think Andy Jean is as good as you get. And now you add Adam Moore, and there's no way you're going to be able to double cover Andy, because Adam Moore will go all day. Talk about that, because a lot of people don't play on that. But Andy, to me, is as good as anybody in the state.
To Andy, one of them guys that came up with it from 9th grade, and every year he got better, and better. And he did well off the field to get his grades, so he could be a D1 type as prospect. Adam Moore came through us from Booker T because his family moved, so it was a closer school for us to come. So we were lucky to get him, and they haven't been on the field at the same time yet. So we hoping to see what's going to happen when they both get on the field on Saturday.
You know, Coach Williams, I'm going to go back to the offensive side of the ball just for a minute. Jones has been known to have a very stout offensive line. Does your game plan really include more of a running game? We didn't see a lot of a running game in the spring, but is that something that you guys really kind of worked on over the summer?
Well, I believe high school coaches are some of the best coaches in the world, because unlike college and NFL, you can't really draft your guys. You have to put your system around the guys that you have at that time and the games that you have. And so depending on what kind of guys you have, you may have more of a running game one year, you may have more of a passing game, depending on what you have in your guys. And so we game plan, and whatever you'll never be able to pick a tape and know exactly what we're gonna do. We play the game, and Coach Elijah Williams teaches us a lot, man. We know the stuff like the back of our hands, so we just play it game by game. You may see one game where it's more passing because that's what the game gave us, and on some games you may see more running. But we will be prepared for whatever it comes, and we're gonna take what they give us and come full strength with it and live with the outcome.
And one more question before I defer the last question to Larry is Malik Bryant, one of the top linebackers. Some rank him as number one, some rank him as number two, but no doubt one of the top linebackers in the nation. How happy is he to get the recruiting process out of the way and focus back on his senior year, committing to Miami a few weeks ago?
Yeah, you could tell it's a load off of him, and I let him know that. Like, once you decide, it'll be a load off, and now you can fully focus, and people stop knocking down your door and answering your phone. He's just a happy kid. Great to have him. Great leader, and he's just flies around. He's just ready to get the season going. That really helped him out choosing the school that he did, and now he's just ready to go full throttle.
Larry, last
Coach
question.
Williams, I'll ask you this, Dan. The questions. Your offensive line. I mean, this is an offensive line that's maturing. It's growing. Obviously, the kid Xavier Vera, who's a senior, somebody who's a talented kid. Cameron Lindsay as well, and then you got a young kid, who I think the world of. I think he's going to be the next great guy, a guy that is going to be a sophomore this year, and Caleb Richardson. Talk about that offensive line, because I think that's where it all begins. And you guys seem to have a lot of maturing kids.
Yeah, Cameron Lindsay, 4-year guy, came up young and turned around and been in that offense. And they both of them just committed to Ohio Bobcats. So my tackles, then Caleb, great young kid coming in. Again, this game, we're going to see what they got. We just told our guys yesterday, this kickoff class is for us to see who's coachable, who can listen, who can follow directions and see, because you got to play the game. Everybody look good in shorts, and we look good against our own guys. But this game will tell what we really have and who's worthy of those D1 scholarships and who's not. So, yeah, I love my line. I love my guys and ready to see what they ready to give and offer.
All right, guys, that is the head coach, Max Edwards of Miami Northwestern, and the assistant head coach of Orlando Jones, Dale Williams. Big game this Saturday night, only on Varsity Sports Network. It's going to be on the Orlando and the Dade channels. Guys, when we come back, Josh Wilson from FloridaHighSchoolFootball.com with the top 25 to start out the year. You're watching the Florida Gridiron Report right here on the Varsity Sports Network, and we'll be back right after this.
We're often asked, what's more important in retirement, having a great plan or working with a great advisor? The answer is that both are vitally important to your retirement success. Retirement planning is not just a one and done. Even the best plans will need to be adjusted. That's exactly why you need an experienced partner to guide you on your journey. How confident are you? Call us today for a second opinion.
When you're under the influence of marijuana and you choose to get behind the wheel, you know it's wrong, and you can affect countless people. So if you don't think about them,
You'll answer to us. Drive baked, get busted.
Are you in the market for the finest athletic apparel available? Check out theimperialpoint.com. Fully sublimated designs, top quality, made in the USA apparel for any team and any fan. Check them out today at theimperialpoint.com or give them a call at 800-801-4884. Imperial Point Apparel, made in the USA.
All right, welcome back to the Florida Gridiron Report right here on the Varsity Sports Network. I'm Dan LaForest. That's Larry Bluestein. And now joining us, the publisher and editor of FloridaHighSchoolFootball.com, Joshua Wilson, ready to top the preseason top 25. Josh, how you doing, my man?
Doing all right. I'm ready to rip this out. You ready to go with this?
All right.
You look like a dog at the start, man. You're ready to go.
I'm ready to go. Let's go. Let's roll this with Treasure Coast at 25, Lakewood 24, Buchholz 23, Pine Forest 22, Columbus 21, Miami Palmetto 20. 19 is Western, 18 Apopka, Jones at 17, Edgewater at 16, Dillard 15, Trinity Christian at 14, Plantation American Heritage 13, Tampa Bay Tech 12, Cocoa 11, Lakeland 10, hitting the top 10 now, Miami Northwestern at 9, Sanford Seminole 8, Cardinal Gibbons at 7, and Venice at 6. And I want to say, I think we want to hold on that top 5 just for a second.
Yeah, we're going to keep them guessing. We're going to keep them guessing.
Keep them guessing. Let you catch your breath a little bit. Larry, let's talk about that the first 20 teams there.
I'll tell you what, you can't go wrong. There's a lot of great programs. You look at 4M just in the South with Columbus, as you mentioned, Palmetto. I think a team like Palm Beach Central has an opportunity to make some noise. And then Davie Western, Josh, those 4 schools just in the South, that's going to rattle a lot of people this year.
I mean, you just mentioned Western, Palmetto, Columbus, those teams right there alone, they're in 4M South right there, and of course, Palm Beach Central is in that 3M in Region 3. So 4M Region 4, 4M Region 3, there's going to be a lot of teams sitting there in those 2 regions, in South Florida, that it's going to be a dogfight at the end of the day, and who comes out of those 2 regions, and especially 4M Region 4. Yeah, I mean, between Columbus and Miami Palmetto and Western, those 3 teams sitting there right there in that Region 4. Who's going to have the mental toughness? Who's going to be able to be physically ready, especially when it comes November and the playoffs? Because they, again, regular season's just a test. Those teams are going to be playoff teams. I have no doubt in my mind they'll be playoff teams. It's who is going to be ready, who is going to be physically and mentally ready come November.
No, I absolutely agree with you. And one of the things that I noticed in this poll is we got a lot of these teams playing each other in the first 3 weeks. So this thing's going to be crazy. It's going to be all over the place here the first 4 or 5 weeks, because once we get into week 6, week 7, we're going to get away with a poll. We're going to start dropping those what if brackets, aren't we?
Oh yeah. And I know Dan's got he's got the calendar circle for that Apopka Sanford Seminole game, which I think is going to be really intriguing.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be possibly for the district championship. It's again, we talked about this off air, but the Apopka Seminole game, they typically don't meet up until probably around semifinals. Well, now it's potentially a district championship game, Josh.
Right.
I mean, yeah, but you got to think that district, that's a district of depth, and every region, every classification actually has a district of depth, and that's a district depth in 4M. Now, I mean, you only got Popka, you got Sanford Seminole, you got Lake Mary, you got Evans, you got Lake Brantley, you got those 5 teams. If all 5 of those teams come out hot on fire to start the 2022 season, it's gonna be really, really interesting, because somebody is going to have to lose some games there along the way. And it's the question is it going to be a Popka? Is it going to be Seminole? Is it going to be like Brantley? Who is it going to be out of those 5 teams? Who's gonna take one on the chin, multiple weeks in a row, in that district? That is going to be fun to watch that district, see how it unfolds. And that's class 4M District 2 in that one right there.
Larry, one of the things that we talked about earlier was the Broward versus US week 1. Even though those aren't district games, they are going to count toward a record, and it's going to be very interesting to see how those Broward counties come out of how they fare out of those 7 programs.
Yeah, these are nationally rated teams that are coming down, and obviously there are going to be some marquee games. That Saturday triple header at St. Thomas Aquinas, where St. Joe's is going to be playing St. Thomas at noon, and then you have Plantation American Heritage against Los Alamitos of California, and then the nightcap, which I think is perhaps the best game. You have St. John's of Washington, D.C. against Chaminade Madonna, arguably one of the best teams, not only in the state, but in the country.
Yeah. No, I agree with that right there. I mean, those are going to be some really great games. And I think at the end of the day, you just have to, especially for those Saturday matchups, watch out. I mean, I like to see how the heat affects those 2 teams, because that is going to be a key factor right there in that noon game, even the 4 o'clock game. That's going to be a factor right there in those 2 Saturday, the day games, not so much the nighttime game at 8 o'clock, but hey, keep an eye on that, because those are going to be considerable factors. We have to keep that in mind here as we still, we're summer doesn't end when the calendar flips to September.
Not here.
Not in Florida.
Well,
No
Josh,
doubt.
let's go. Josh, let's
go
go
ahead,
ahead and
Dave.
drop the top 5.
Oh boy, drum rolls, please, on that one, because we got 4 defending state champions in this list here. Number 5, Tampa Jesuit. Number 4, St. Thomas Aquinas. Number 3, Miami Central. Number 2, Chaminade. And number 1, I'm going to catch some flack for this one, but we have to put them in here because they are an FHA member school, even though they don't play for a district title or a state championship, but they are going to be playing some considerable number of teams in Florida this year, especially starting week 1. Bradenton IMG Academy, and they will be playing number 3 Miami Central to open the week 1 slate. So that will be huge to keep an eye on that one.
Nice. Great. Next week, we're definitely going to get into the rural, because up top you have Madison County and Hawthorne, 2 really good teams. You got Chiefland, got Pahokee. We're going to talk about those teams next week.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to have a list of games that we're really going to have an eye on, and that's going to be a whole nother segment. But, one thing to keep in mind, the preseason top 25 does not change because of Kickoff Classic. Kickoff Classic can be defined by each coach, set of coaches on how they actually run it. It may not be a full tilt game. They may include JV. So don't get too shocked if you see some scores that are a little bit closer than what you thought they were going to be. But the top 25 is not going to change until we get into week 1 at the end of week 1. Josh, real quick, why don't you talk about your new show right here on Varsity Sports Network?
Oh, we got two shows I think we're going to be doing. One is the road tour. We're going to have the pregame stuff going to 5 to 6:30, start on Varsity Sports Network on all channels there. So, hey, you'll catch us at a game of the week, in the different parts of the state during the regular season. I can tell you right now, we're going to focus on the Gainesville-Ocala area for week 1. The matchup for week 1 will be Gainesville hosting Vanguard High, but there's a matchup the night before that we'll be keeping an eye on, and we'll focus on that one too, is Buchholz and Columbia. And Buchholz will be hosting Columbia. Both games at Citizens Field week 1. But then after that, catch us for the scoreboard show every Friday night, 10 to midnight on Varsity Sports Network.
So let me get this right. We're going to be live for 5 hours, actually 7 hours on Friday nights, starting at 5, and we're not getting done until midnight.
Wow.
I mean, that's hey, if you're a football junkie, this is where the place to be.
Yeah. Get your food, get your popcorn, and have a seat.
Get your popcorn, get your Pepsi, get your Coke, or get your RC Cola and your peanuts out or something like that. If that's what you want to do, but at the end of the day, it's get ready for fun on Friday nights here on Varsity Sports Network.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot there. Well, guys, that's Josh Wilson from FloridaHighSchoolFootball.com. You're watching a Florida Gridiron Report right here on the Varsity Sports Network. Larry and I'll be back with our final thoughts right after this.
Searching for meaning in a relentless world. Always connected, but somehow alone. Trapped by illusion. We offer another path, where the battle to belong begins. Awakened by a calling. United by the cause you fight for. No one can take away what it means to be among the few, the proud, the Marines.
Are you in the market for the finest athletic apparel available? Check out theimperialpoint.com. Fully sublimated designs, top quality, made in the USA apparel for any team and any fan. Check them out today at theimperialpoint.com or give them a call at 800-801-4884. Imperial Point Apparel, made in the USA.
All right, welcome back to the Florida Gridiron Report right here on the Varsity Sports Network. I'm Dan LaForest. That's Larry Bluestein. Larry, what a great show.
Oh,
from top to bottom, way to kick off the 2022 season.
Oh, I couldn't wait for the show to come, and I'll tell you what, I can't wait till next week because it's only going to get better every year or every week, because the guests that we have every single week, whether it be coaches or our correspondents, all the way to the games that we'll rehash. And Josh did an awesome job with this top 25. I know there's a lot of people out there that are going to be writing. If you're going to write Josh.
Yeah.
Don't write us.
Now, I tell you what, Josh put a lot of hard work into this, and we talked about this. You know, he's not wrong. And I had it all saying is, I may not be right, but I know I ain't wrong. Right. And everybody's going to have their own opinion, but the reality is people want to have discussion, and let's talk about it. And I'm going to tell you something, Larry. I noticed 6 teams of that top 25 were suburban.
Yeah, that's pretty. That's an interesting look. Just don't give South Florida any more firepower than they need, because they're already angry at what's happened. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Dan, you know, this was a great media day, 16 of them throughout Florida. And then we kick things off right here with this, our show this week. And then I'm already looking forward to next. And like you said, every week's going to be great matchups. Every week we're going to have tremendous correspondence. And every week we're going to have a different poll. And if your team's not ranked right now, just keep winning and you'll see them.
Well, I can tell you, we got a number of games that we're going to be broadcasting right here on Varsity Sports Network. Check out social media. You can follow us at VSN Florida on Twitter and across the board. And you can follow Blue and I both on Twitter and across the board. But we got some great games, and we're excited about Varsity Sports Network and what we're trying to do to continue to grow and expand. And we're having really serious discussions almost every day about how we're doing this. And we got some great games. But, guys, Saturday night, definitely VSN Orlando, VSN Dade. Check out that Miami Northwestern Jones game live from Camping World Stadium. I think you're going to be pretty pleased with what we do as far as the production. That's going to be a great game, but it's going to be a great game to watch live on Varsity Sports Network. Well, Larry, any final thoughts?
You know what? Like I said, what a great show. Got a chance to preview that game that you're talking about. 2 coaches that kind of spilled the beans on what type of team they're going to have. Andy did an awesome job. You know, I mean, he's going to bring it strong every week that he's on, and the same thing with Josh. And what a great time! I really enjoyed it, and you know, I'm thankful to VSN and to you and to Bobby for the hard work and everybody else behind the scenes.
Well, we're going to get ready to get going here. For Larry Bluestein, I'm Dan LaForest. You're watching the Florida Gridiron Report right here on the Varsity Sports Network, and we'll see you next week.